This is the ultimate question. What phone should I buy today? Not everyone has $1,000 to spend on a phone, but at $250 or less, this is a decent choice. This phone is known for the camera and awesome battery, and whatever that hole at the top is. But let's talk about it first, because there's a lot to talk about. Should you buy the Google Pixel 3a XL in 2020? Hello everyone, this is Matt from Real World Review. Check out the social media listed above in the description for some extras. Alright, let's review this cheap smartphone. The screen is not the worst, but it's also not the best. The 3a XL has a 6-inch 1080p flat OLED panel. Doesn't sound bad, but there are some issues. For one, there is some scratch resistance, but the screen is Dragon Tail rather than Gorilla Glass. This isn't a huge issue because it's made by a company that I believe is pronounced Asahi, a Japanese company that actually makes pretty good tempered glass covers. The pixel density isn't the worst at 402 pixels per inch, especially being a budget phone, but it's strange that the Pixel 3a had a 1080p screen as well, giving it a nice 441 pixels per inch. However, the phone screens look a lot nicer than the 326 pixels per inch the iPhone 11 gives us. This is a decent sized forehead and chin due to the 18:9 screen ratio, but that forehead does house a second speaker, making the look a little bit worth it. To be fair, I had no issues with the screen, even though I thought that I would. Sure, there are little things like slight color shifting and not the best outdoor performance, but it was quite impressive and much nicer than the equivalent iPhone screen, price-wise. While the refresh rate is 60 frames per second on this phone, just like normal phones, it feels a little bit slower than normal phones. It's hard to explain, but it might have to do with the processor. Also, it seems like certain images look a little bit grainier than normal, which I'm guessing is due to the lack of HDR support or the lack of P3 wide color gamut. I'm not sure there. This phone has an always-on display, which is a nice little display of what you need to know, and sometimes will even tell you what song is playing. Then you can double tap on the screen to turn it on, which is always nice to see. Even with the cheap nature of the display, it's perfect for most people, especially given the price range and its competitors. At 3700 milliamps, you would think that this is a big battery for this phone, and it is. At first I thought the battery life wasn't really that good, but after a couple of days I started getting some really good results. And with the power saving mode on, I almost got 4 days out of this battery, with 2 days being very easy to do. Here is the Geekbench 4 score, which isn't too bad either. This phone supports 18-watt charging, which isn't bad at all, especially given that this phone comes with it in the box. There is no wireless charging, but at least you get the USB-C port on the bottom. This is actually a pretty large battery that's paired with a weak processor, so I wouldn't be too surprised if you can actually get better battery life than I was getting out of this. The cameras are amazing, plain and simple. The camera app is pretty basic, and I actually love it. Most of the features you need are here, but it does lack some extra stuff like Samsung and LG phones normally come with. With all this said, I don't agree that it's the same exact camera as the Pixel 3. For example, there is a single 12 megapixel sensor that's on the back, and that's it. It is literally the same camera sensor, but the images aren't the same. Really, everything looks the same as a Pixel 3, but night shots are where you can see that the Pixel 3a fails just a little bit, even with optical image stabilization. Still, getting 90% of the camera capability of a phone that costs twice as much is outrageously good. The portrait shots are the best on Pixel phones, in my eyes at least, and this phone is no different. Astrophotography is awesome on this phone, and that's really when you start to see the Pixel 3 do better, because the 3a lacks the Pixel visual core. And as usual, the video recording is alright to me, nothing special, but at least this year Google has a reason not to include 4K 60 frames per second video. Moving on to the front camera, it's not bad at all. It's a fixed 8 megapixel sensor, just like you saw on the Pixel 4. However, I do wish that they kept the same sensor as the Pixel 3, which was focusable. To be fair, these cameras work really well, and that's why you pay for this phone. I mean, getting the Pixel camera tech in the standard $400 price tag is really good. Just not for video. Now, is this phone even worth it? For most, I would say yes, but let's break it down. I use flagship devices, so I look for the best in everything. A little backstory on this phone, I actually bought it for $120. At that price, this is pretty awesome. You get an awesome camera, really good battery life, a light plastic and glass build, fast USB-C charging, and an OLED screen, all for way under the original $400 price tag. And you even get a headset jack, but it's not really a big deal for phones in this price range, surprisingly. With this said, you do lose a few things compared to some of the competitors, and that's really the question. Is it better to go for a budget phone or an old flagship phone? You get a Snapdragon 670 chip in this phone, which is alright for most, but the X12 LTE in this phone is not going to be as good as a Pixel 3, which has a Snapdragon 845 chip and X20 LTE. This pretty much just means that the Pixel 3 will work in other places that the Pixel 3a will not, and the LTE internet will be faster. Sure, they have the same RAM at 4GB and standard 64GB of storage, but the Pixel 3a lacks water resistance and wireless charging. While they both have dual speakers, the Pixel 3 has superior sounding ones, along with being front-facing. The only reason that any of this matters is because the price tag is pretty much the same, well, in the used market at least. And if you look further, you can find a Snapdragon 855 device with 4K 60 frames per second video recording on the back and the front camera. That phone is the Samsung S10e. All of these phones are found in the $300 to $400 price range, but they're made for different reasons, as well as their MSRP price being a lot different. But still, in 2020, why wouldn't you go for the better in all ways Samsung S10e over a brand new Pixel 3a? Now, we are talking about the Pixel 3a XL in this video, so clearly the 3a XL is the better choice because it does have a bigger screen, but then you have the Pixel 3 XL to look at. Regardless of how you look at it, there are always going to be some better options out there, but none that I can find that match this $479 base price, when dealing with the camera at least. And I know you're thinking about it, but we will save talk about the budget Google phone compared to the iPhone SE for another video. But again, I bought this phone for $120, which shows you that it's possible to get this phone for a really good price, and at that price you might be able to score an iPhone 7, which in this case the Pixel 3a would be a lot better of a choice. Even with that price, you still get some extras and gimmicks, depending on how you look at it. This is a plastic design, which helps the phone be lighter than the Pixel 3 XL, something I actually like about this phone. You still get the fingerprint scanner on the back, which always seemed like the best place in my opinion. You also get Active Edge, which is gimmicky to me, but still kind of cool because all you need to do is just squeeze the phone to trigger the assistant. Or you could say OK Google, or swipe the corners, or hold the home button. Okay, you get the point. This is a well-rounded smartphone and it seems to be worth the used price, but not the brand new $479 price tag. If the processor was better, then maybe, but even then, I really never experienced too much lag, and most of the processing of images and things like that are done in the background. And you also are paying for the pure Google experience, not to mention that this phone actually gets updates before they even come out. Now, should you buy this phone in 2020 at a reasonable price? I would say yes, especially if you need a good camera phone to hold you over for the next flagship phone. Even with a slower processor, there is still the stock fast Android experience we all come to get used to and love. This phone has a lot of things that the Pixel 3 has, whether it's good or bad, but it's at a cheaper price, so it makes it more acceptable. With the recent release of the Pixel 4, it seems like this might be something to look over, but if you can find this phone under $300, you won't be disappointed. I mean, at least they didn't put a 2014 screen in this 2019 phone, unlike what someone else did this year. And that's all I wanted to talk about. Thanks for watching my review of the Google Pixel 3a XL, the viewer's choice. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments section or message me on Twitter. I get bored over there. Also, check out the social media listed above, subscribe and hit that bell button if you like the channel and want to see more videos. Thanks for watching.